You're losing time and focus, and you don't even know where it's going. Just little distractions, decisions, things pulling at your attention. Once you start noticing it, you can't unsee it. It's not just about losing time in big, obvious ways. It's the small, constant decisions. It's like opening your wardrobe and things taking way longer to find. It's seeing things you own but don't use. It's like putting something down and losing it. None of it feels like a problem, but it adds up. Every object you own doesn't just take up space, it takes attention. So, what's the solution to all of this? For a lot of people, it's minimalism. I think most people would have heard of this by now, but the idea is pretty simple. You live with less so you can focus on more. And one of the most well-known versions of this comes from Marie Kondo. She suggests a simple filter. Does it spark joy? Go through everything you own, category by category, and only keep what's meaningful. Japanese author Fumio Sasaki explores this differently in his book Goodbye Things. His core idea is that every object you own creates a small mental tab in the background. Not something loud or obvious, but just a low-level responsibility that your brain is aware of. And when you add that up, you don't just have possessions, you have an invisible to-do list with no urgency attached to it. Things you're meant to fix, things you might use one day, an object linked to an old hobby that you stopped. Quietly adds cognitive load, but never pays off. What got me interested in this idea? I went to Thailand recently for 2 weeks, and I only brought a carry-on. Initially, I thought I wasn't going to have enough, and I was going to be re-wearing the same dirty clothes over and over again. And it turns out that the opposite happened. I carried a bag that was heavier than it needed to be, and whenever I needed to find something, it took a very long time. And so when I got back, I started asking myself, how much of this do I actually need? Even something as simple as getting dressed, it would take me around 10 minutes to decide what to wear. And it doesn't feel like a big deal on its own until you realize that's nearly 3 days of your life every year on something that you might not even care about. So I went to Uniqlo and I built the simplest system I could, the safest color palette. I got 3 t-shirts, 3 shorts, 9 outfits that all work together. And now I don't need to make a decision. I just pick something up and it should work. What I noticed in my own life is that the clutter and small decisions, the friction in everyday things like getting change, fits into something psychologists call attention residue and task switching costs. In observational workplace studies, researchers tracked how knowledge workers actually spend their time. What they found was this. After an interruption, it can take around 23 minutes on average to fully return to a focused task. Not just to continue, but to actually regain deep concentration. In cognitive science research on visual processing, studies show that cluttered environments compete for limited attentional resources, which is reducing your working memory performance and increasing your cognitive load. And this happens even when you're not actively thinking about them. So the cost of distraction isn't just the interruption, it's the recovery time your brain pays afterwards. If all of that is true, the next step is you start cutting things down. In the KonMari order, clothes, books, paper, miscellaneous, then sentimental, I went through everything I own. At first, I was just doing a KonMari pass. I ended up with around 131 items, which was quite lenient. I grouped some things together. If removing things created clarity, I wanted to know what would happen if I reduced everything I own to just 50 items. So I live with other people, so I can't just go around binning communal furniture. But everything I use, rely on, or take responsibility for counts. At first, it was quite simple. It was just, throwing things out. Like, it felt good. It felt like I was removing obstacles. And then once you start actually counting everything, Like you've got your phone, laptop, watch, headphones, like all of which have separate charges. So like you're getting close to double digits without even like touching like your clothes. Yeah, and then so I kept going, and then I got to around 100 items. At that point, it felt less like removing obstacles and felt like putting more in my life. Each thing that I was taking out was just slightly more important than the last, and it felt like I was like forcing things out of my life that I still used, had utility for. And so I got to around 80 items, and then I stopped. I kind of realized it was a bit extreme. Like it got to a point where, like, objectively, yes, I don't need these things, but removing them creates more friction in my life than the friction I would have had if they were here, if that makes sense. I hope by the end of this video you realize I'm not trying to tell you to become a monk. I don't think owning as little as possible is the answer. I stumbled onto minimalism not too long ago, and I wanted to delve into it a little deeper. Modern life is very busy, and you're constantly switching between different parts of life where different things matter at different times. You can't just live a simple life chilling at home with your same 9 outfits. But I did want to make this video because I noticed my attention being all over the place when I didn't want it to be. And I wanted to be more efficient, and I wanted to focus more. I also know a lot of people hold on to more than they need, and they don't realize the quiet impact that's having on them. Once you know about it, it's pretty hard to ignore. Editing this video and like putting it all together, I've noticed the way I just move around my room is completely different. And now I'm not going to sit here and tell you to throw away all of your stuff, but what I do think is worth asking yourself is how much of your stuff is actually supporting your life and how much of it is just sitting there taking away from it. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it there. If this made you think, good. I'm still figuring out what this channel's direction is, but I'm going to keep trying new things. So if you want to see where this goes, please subscribe. Thank you very much.